So today's video is all about shoulder training. I'm joined with one of my clients so you can have an in-depth look at what one of my one-to-one sessions looks like, and I will go through all the fundamental basics of 4 very key shoulder exercises. So it's a little bit longer than usual, but be patient with it because there's a lot of good information dropped. So before we get started, as you should do with any other routine, you need to warm yourself up. Now when it comes to warming up, what you do is really going to be dependent upon you and whether or not you've had any shoulder injuries in the past or if you're recovering from one. What I would typically do is spend just a couple of minutes doing some rotator cuff exercises like you can see in the video, along with just doing a few warm-up sets before moving into the working set of whatever the first exercise is going to be. You just want to make sure that it doesn't eat into your session for too long. First exercise we're going to begin with is the overhead dumbbell press. Whenever you're pressing, you need to first of all test what is your range of motion, what is your mobility like in the shoulder joint. So let's say for example, if you're really tight, I've trained with clients before who are really tight and this is like literally as far as they can go, then they're going to be required to have the seat down like that. Okay, so they're basically in a position where this is comfortable for them. When they're pressing above, they're keeping the tension on the front delt and it's not going to cause them any discomfort. Let's just see what your mobility is like. If you just go like that, yeah. Just one hand. Yeah. I'm going to go out like that. Does that feel comfortable? Yeah. So just go forward again. Just want to make sure that this is, yeah, that's fine. So we are going to set the bench at this angle. When I'm doing warm-ups, I would typically just do maybe 6 to 8 reps. Nice and slow and controlled, and I would gradually build the weight up to whatever my working weight is going to be. Symmetry is everything with this movement, so obviously set yourself up in front of the mirror and make sure that everything is doing exactly the same thing. If you have like a line going down the center of your body, everything needs to be the same. And I want you to think about not pressing the weight up with your hands out up in front of you. Think about more elbow placement and driving with the elbows, so your elbows are coming across in this fashion, so elbow across. You're shortening the delt here, and this is the finishing position. If you go further forward, you basically protract and over-engage the tricep. So starting position here, hands above elbows. A lot of people like to bring the hands on the inside, make it easier for themselves. So here, up, elbows together, and stop. Down, up, and stop. I don't want you to bring it yet, up. We'll bring it down to around mouth level. 3, 2. One thing that I noticed when he was doing this exercise was he seemed to be holding his breath throughout the entire working set, which is not ideal. The best thing to do would be to inhale, take a deep breath on the eccentric portion of the movement on the way down, and then exhale as you drive and explode up. So it wasn't a bad effort for his first working set, but there was definitely a few things which he can improve upon. So that was good, control was good, pass me your hands. So I want you, elbows were creeping closer and closer together as he was doing those reps. Yeah. So I want you to keep them out a little bit like that. When you're bringing them down, keep the hands wider. So bend the elbow, bend the elbow, bend the elbow. Yeah. There. Now we're lengthening the delt. Then as you drive up, shortening the delt, elbows together a little bit like that. Yeah. I think you're feeling it now. Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? Yeah. When you're lifting heavy weights, you gotta be careful how you get them up. If you've got a training partner outside the elbow, a lot of you guys probably won't do. So I just do it, popping it up with the knee. So pop up, rest, pop up, rest, drive, and then now we go. So with each working set, his form got progressively better and better, which was good to see. If there was a few things I would tweak, it would probably be the angle of the bench. It might be a little bit too steep for him because you can see his back is arching quite a bit. And it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but I think he would be a lot more comfortable if he could lean back a little bit more. I think that's just a sign of slight tightness in his shoulder. His wrist positioning could have done with improvement as well. If you look, particularly with his left hand, his wrist is really extended. which really isn't ideal if you're going to be driving a heavy weight above your head. You want to imagine that you are about to throw a punch, so you need your wrist to be in line with your forearm, and that's how you're going to be generating quite a bit of force. So regardless of whether you're doing an overhead press or a bench press, your wrist needs to be in line with your forearm. He normally does 18, we were doing 15 then. It's just being more strict and tight with your form, and then I think we were slowing it down a bit more than you'd usually do. Is that right?
Yeah.
Next exercise we're going to do is the dumbbell lateral raise. Now this is, it's a good exercise, particularly at targeting your mid-delt, which is what we're trying to do here. I always advise you do it seated, because if you're standing, you're going to be much more tempted to kind of rock backwards and forwards and make the exercise easier for yourself. So we're going to sit down, we're going to lean forward, because most people, when they sit upright, they bring the weight up, they kind of rotate a little bit, a lot of the tension is on the front delt. So you always need to be checking to the side, where is the tension being placed, and ideally you need to look at what's on top. So the mid delt needs to be on top always, otherwise you're not going to be placing the tension there. So I'm going to lean forward slightly, chest out, posture tight, and I'm going to bring the dumbbells up so we can see what's on top. We've got the mid delt. So I'd probably class this as just a bit of a one warm-up set should do it, because you just want to get your muscles prepared for what is to come during the working sets. And I think for a lot of people, it takes a while for them to get to grips with this movement to the point where they only really start to feel it or master the movement on like the third and last set. So in a way, it's like you've only really done one true working set. The first two sets before were almost warm-up sets. Let's sort your posture out. You're going to have your chest out. I don't really want you to be touching the bench, to be honest. So that's it, perfect posture. And let's imagine, okay, you're going to now lift your elbows up. Yeah? Good. Keep at the top for me. So positioning is good there. There's a little bit more tension on the front delt here. This is what's on top. So to counteract that, you're going to lean forward but keep your spine neutral. Yeah. Good. And what we want to do is basically have your hands on the same level as your elbow. Not like that and not like that. If you do that, tension is going to be here. If you do that, a little bit more on the rear delt, but you've got the problem with internal rotation and messing up your shoulders. So that's ideally the best. Now, if you do have really tight shoulders, it's probably not a good idea that you come all the way up to the top like that. If you try and force it, it's not going to be comfortable. In fact, what will happen if you try and force it is you're going to come up, you're going to be restricted here, so you will just externally rotate and do that and hit the front delt. So it just means you have to restrict your range of motion. Even if you can only come up this far, you're still working the muscle through its active range. So again, an important thing with this one is keep your shoulders depressed. They have to be depressed. If you allow your shoulders to elevate, you over-engage your traps, which is basically what I did for the first 3 years of training. It was like a lateral raise shrug. Keep down, yeah. Elbows up, that's it. See the difference there?
Yeah, because I was doing...
Yeah, so you're almost always pushing down. There we go, that's it. That's perfect. So that's your active range, yeah? And I don't want you resting at all at the bottom, okay? So imagine I'm like that. As soon as you reach there, you go back up again. So we're keeping constant tension on the delt. Up. Good. If I'm being honest, I would probably say my shoulders are my weak point. I think they're alright, but I think if you have big arms or a big chest, particularly if you've got a big chest, it makes your shoulders look relatively smaller. So in theory, I should be doing less chest work and more shoulder work, but I don't really do that much chest work, to be honest. You're gonna have to move away so I can see myself. Having a mirror in front of you is going to be key for this exercise. So keeping everything locked in place. I have to overemphasize this point to everyone who's going to be doing this exercise. You do not need to lift heavy weight, okay? You do not need to lift heavy weight. The delt is a very small muscle, and the moment you try and lift too heavy, you automatically are going to over-engage other muscle groups just to try and get that weight up. Other side. 2, 1. Nice. What you want to do is if you keep your arms completely straight and you do that, you'll notice you over-engage your traps a little bit. So we're having slight bend in the elbow, but you're not lifting up with the hand, you're lifting up with the elbow. Right, so you're coming up, and then boom. What I tend to do with my training is, if I'm training shoulders, there is usually only one overhead pressing movement because most people have quite a prominent front delt. Particularly those people who haven't really got their bench pressing form mastered. So whenever they're pressing, they tend to use their front delts anyway. So a good thing to do is just look at your physique from a side-on point of view. So we could do it here. My front delt is reasonably dominant, I would say. Could probably do with a lot more rear delt work. But compared to a lot of people, I would say it's all right. I'm doing all right for myself. So I would usually do either overhead dumbbell press or some form of overhead barbell press. But I want to focus more on the mid delt, so we've done that one. Now we're going to go on to the cables. And this time around, because of the way this is set up, I'm going to be overloading my delts in a completely different way. Where the cable is 90 degrees from my hand here, this is when resistance is at its peak. So basically, it's going to be the hardest at this point in the movement, which is where my delts are in the lengthened position, so they're relatively going to be stronger. So at the top, it's going to be a little bit easier for me, right? So it's just working the muscle through a different strength curve. And if you want those, 3D boulder shoulders, I recommend that you incorporate these into your routine. So what I tend to do with these, thumb is going to go around the handle. This is going to be the point where I basically start the movement. I don't want to go much lower because then I'm going to be raking these together. So up and down. The delt is a very small muscle, okay, so it's not going to take a lot of weight to overload it, particularly if it's not a strong point of yours and if you've never done this before. I want you to pause just there when the balls touch, yeah? What I want you to think about is just wrist position, yeah? So wrist in line with your forearm, and then you're bringing it down like that, so you're doing that a little bit, okay? So I want you to keep wrist position the same. There's a lot to think about with this one because it's a funky movement, and if you've never done it before, you're like, what the hell's going on? There's a lot to think about. Do you feel a difference?
That was much better.
You feel more of a burn with this one compared to the dumbbell?
It's not in any way on it.
Yeah, we got no weight on this, but it's already killing it. Just pause there for me. I want you to rotate ever so slightly. Slight bend in the elbow. Bend down the wall. Yeah. There we go. So I just want to make sure that
okay.
So you can look to the side, watch your shoulder, and see what is on top. There's a little bit more front delt action here, so I just want you to rotate ever so slightly. Good. So next one we'll do, this will probably be the last shoulder exercise I do. Like I said before, I wouldn't just go to the gym and do 4 shoulder exercises. I would combine it with another muscle group. But we've worked the front, we've done 2 exercises to hit the mid. Now we're going to do 1 to hit the rear delt. So again, you've got 2 main tools which you can use. You've got the cables which you can do, or like a pec deck, reverse pec deck, or you can do the dumbbells. We're going to do the dumbbells today because I think this one requires a little bit more explanation with the technique. We're going to obviously do it on a bench. The level of incline which you do it at, obviously it's just going to dictate which part of the rear delt you're going to hit. If you're more upright, you're going to be working further up. If you're more flat, you're going to hit more of the actual rear delt itself. So this works well for me. I'm going to position myself so I'm a little bit higher up, so I basically don't hit this. I don't want to make contact with this. Now I find that when I use a pronated grip like this, it's much more effective at targeting my rear delts. Okay, if you did a neutral grip like that, it still works, but I just find other muscle groups like to come into play, and I'm much more tempted to do this, yeah, which is I'm incorporating other muscle groups when I do this. A little bit of bicep, a little bit of forearm. I'm gonna see this line here. I'm basically gonna follow it when I'm going up. Starting position here, push forward. I'm gonna come up to about here, and then down, up. I'll keep checking to the side to see that I'm hitting the muscles which I want to hit. I should see my rear delts popping. So your hands are going to be directly below your shoulders. Elbows are going to follow this line. Yeah. So yeah, what we're basically trying to do here is this muscle, which you can see is popping, is going to be shortening, and then as we push down, it's going to be lengthening. So we want to be able to see that pop. That's when it's like, okay, it's contracted. Like I said, if we come too high, you're going to incorporate the rest of his back muscles. So you should notice as you reach the end, or at least halfway through the set, it should start burning. If you're not really feeling the burn in the rear delt, then it's something needs to be adjusted. But it's like a lot of these exercises, I'd probably recommend you do a few warm-up sets with a very light weight, feel it out, and then be like, oh, okay, now I'm feeling it, this is what I need to do. Then go into your working set. Just to there, back up. Hand position. 8, good. 9, we go 15. 10. Relax your back. There we go. Just reset if you need to. So it wasn't a bad effort for his first time doing this, but as you can see, there was just a temptation for his shoulders to retract with each rep. That's why I kept telling him to just relax and push forward at the bottom every now and then. Thoughts on that?
It's a tough one.
It's a weird one.
I think you need to get used to the technique.
Yeah. This is...
Because it's so easy to start just...
It's not like... It's very rare that you're going to go and do this and absolutely smash it in your first set, or even, you know, the first day of trying this. You know, I've had a lot of people who have just, they've had to spend a hell of a lot of time on this exercise and get better and better with time. I mean, even I'm not perfect at it. Yeah. And I often think that I'm doing it right, and then I watch a video back and I'm like my other muscles are engaging, yeah. You know, muscles which I don't want to be engaging. And it didn't feel like they were, but they are. So this one is, if you can do, get somebody to film it.
Yeah.
When it comes to rep ranges, the number of reps usually goes up as the session progresses. So for the seated overhead press, I'll usually stick within the 7 to 10 rep range. Might be a little bit lower if I'm really trying to push my strength and bust through a plateau. But when it comes to lateral raises, rear delt flies, I do tend to push the rep range up a little bit. For the lateral raises, it can be, you know, anywhere between 10, 15, sometimes even more. And with rear delt flies, you know, sometimes I will go all the way up to 30 or 40 reps. So you don't want to restrict yourself with using the same rep range over and over again. As you can see, when I'm doing this working set, I'm fatiguing. I think this was the last set. So you can see my shoulder blades just want to retract a little bit to help assist with the movement. So you're basically just having a constant battle with yourself to keep the shoulder joint fixed in place and just to maintain that tension on the focused area.
So that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. As always, all my training programs are available on www.mikethurston.co.uk, link in the description, where you can find my physique transformation course and all the other one-off programs. They're all catered towards building muscle mass and losing body fat, just basically improving body composition. So if you're not involved already, get yourself involved. Thanks for watching, and see you guys soon.